What is up, Cupcakes? It's your boy Paperback Dan, and I'm here with Connor, who does not have a nickname. And today we're going
Hi.
to go over. Today we're going to go over what we pulled this week at our comic book stores. So, Connor, you can go ahead first.
Awesome. So mine isn't a big week this week, but I was about 50-50 with Marvel and DC. So what I'm going to start off with is the two that I have read, and the first one is Thor 18. So obviously that's written by Donny Cates. It's kind of like a filler issue. It's okay. Like the series is kind of going through a bit of the motions right now. Like it's kind of just building. It's maybe building a bit too long for my liking. Um, but it still got me hooked. It's not as exciting as when it started, but it's
Right.
definitely, I'm curious to see where it goes. There's been some teases that have kind of kept me hooked in.
How is it as a whole? Because I'm not pulling it or anything. But I'm
You know,
curious. 'Cause I love Thor, so
it started so well because like the Jason Aaron's run, I love it, and it started so well. It was really flying. I mean, it was like I think he described it as heavy metal, and it was. It was like explosive. But since that initial arcs, it's really slowed down, and he's hinted a lot to the future and what's going to happen. But I feel like I've been reading it for for a long time now, and not much has happened. So I hope something big is
mm,
going to happen soon. It's not poorly written. It's
right. Yeah,
just the pace. I just feel like it needs to pick up a little bit. You know?
yeah. I gotcha. I was gonna ask about that because I remember I don't know, it was issue 5 or 6. There's that big like reveal in the last panel,
Hmm.
and I know that was like some sort of premonition or something like that. So I was really curious if like he's at the point where he's trying to build to something, and you kind of already touched on that without me having to ask. So
Yeah. Yeah. So that tease still there's nothing like they mentioned it a couple times, but not enough for me to be excited about it yet. You know,
right,
I would have liked more on it per se, or even just, it could be like another 10 issues and I go, wow, he's actually been building up to it this whole time and I never realized, like subliminally. But
yeah,
it is very much like, feels like pieces are being moved right now, and it's not the most exciting part. It could be in the next few arcs, but right now it's really that lull. It's
yeah,
that like point in the second act of a movie where you're like, okay, let's pick up the pace a little bit. I need to move,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
But as I say, it's still well written and it's engaging enough. It's just I definitely like, for instance, this week it wouldn't be my top pick of the week so far in what I've read anyway.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Um. So yeah.
What? Yeah.
So so my next one would be Superman, son of Kal-El. Also, this would probably be one of the best covers for me of the week. I think it's really cool and impactful if you can kind of see it.
Oh yeah, is
Um,
that at the house?
yeah, it's the
Or
Kent farm.
okay.
It's built off of the kind of a cliffhanger from last month's issue. But yeah,
Mm,
that series is fantastic. Obviously, the big news came out recently about a
yeah.
certain relationship status. I honestly don't care. I think it's a really interesting dynamic of a book. The the social commentary that is being interwoven in it, I wish was in comics more. Not because it's preaching a message, but because I like comics to kind of reach another level. As a
Mm,
Superman character, we've discussed this before. There's a lot of things he hasn't done or been able to do because one, writers can't really, and two, as a character, it's just too easy to like overthrow the world. But those questions are kind of getting answered with John and thinking about different ways of being Superman, and it really contrasts the world we're living in right now. And I think Tom Taylor is really like building something special with that. Um, and yeah, like the whole Superman line is really doing well right now. It's really building up to a kind of focal point. I'm curious to see where it's going, but particularly John. I hope John is going to be Superman for quite a while now.
yeah,
And
I'm
I
I'm
think
curious
it,
where it's going as well. Like as you
yeah,
were saying that, I'm like, I wonder if Taylor has a plan, like for
yeah,
where he wants to get to, and if it's going to be something big, and like what it
hmm
means for John, like post potentially being Superman, Or maybe he'll be Superman forever, and it'll be like a Miles situation where we have two Supermans. Or
Well, this is the thing, because as we've discussed recently, DC are using this new format where they kind of prioritize a lot of mini series. I think it's to help accessibility, and I think it's doing a pretty good job. But they didn't give a mini series number to John's Superman series. They didn't just go like issue 1 of 4 or issue 1 of 6. This, as far as I believe, is an ongoing. So that kind of already hints to me that at least Tom Taylor, as long as he's on it, and I hope he's on it for a long time, he has a plan. But the DC universe in general is building towards something right now. And I kind of hope that John is a big part of that. He seems it right now. I mean, things can change, but he seems to be building something special there, and I hope it really does play in the future. So yeah, the next book I have now, these two I haven't read yet, and I plan on. The next one is I Am Batman.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. So this one was actually like so this is issue 2. I Am Batman issue 2. Sorry, I should have said that. And the Superman one was issue 4. Forgot the numbers. But I Am Batman is basically Lucius Fox's son, Jace Fox. So not Luke Fox, it's Jace Fox. Basically there's been a huge saga that's been building. And he's kind of taken some Batman equipment he's found and become Batman. And it's essentially while like Fear State's going on in Batman's title, so Bruce is kind of off the table for a wee bit, and he's kind of filling in a gap. But it's kind of interesting. Now, the biggest criticism I can give this series so far, right, is they did a 0 issue, an issue 1, and an issue 2. Now, the problem is if you pick up the 0 issue, you are not going to have a clue what's going on, because they released a series called, I think it's called Batman's Second Son. And it was a digital first series where they released like, it was almost like half issues. And then they released it in print. And the print was like the two parts of the digital series were like one issue. And they did like 4 printed issues of those. And if you haven't read those, they really build up the sort of the Fox clan and how everything's built up in the family dynamic. And it's really cool seeing a different look into like another aspect of Batman's kind of background characters. I mean, they're definitely forefront of this, but it does get quite complicated, and there's a lot covered. And then when you go into I Am Batman, if you haven't read that, it'll be super confusing. So I think this is one step where DC's missed the mark in regards to that accessibility. I think it's kind of crazy they didn't just continue the series. So yeah, but the series so far has been good. But I say that as someone that's read it all. I think I highly recommend, if you want to pick it up and see what's going on, read Second Son first. So that takes me to finally, and I've not read this one either, Dark Ages issue 2, which was one from last week, but it was a delayed delivery at my comic shop. So I got it this week. I've not read it yet, but the first issue was incredibly interesting. And again, it's written by Tom Taylor. So
that's the reason I decided to pull it. And because he said it was an Elseworld story, it feels like there will actually be stakes. So I'm super into it. I'm mad though. I also actually pulled up Dark Ages 2 this week, because I haven't been to my comic book store in probably like 3 weeks now. But I'm mad because you got a different cover than I did. I think yours is way cooler.
I actually think mine's is the cover A. I think yours is a variant.
It might be. Oh yeah, it says variant in the corner. It doesn't.
Oh, does it? Yeah, this is a pretty cool cover. It kind of has. I mean, if you've not read issue 1, there's a fair few spoilers on it, but yeah, like it's a really cool cover. I'm sorry.
Well, then I guess I'm glad that I don't have that one then, because it's so hard to see from here. So nothing.
Flaunting it off.
That's
by the way, since we're both holding the issue, right? This is just something I've always wanted to comment on, and you might be with me on this, right? And I really want to say, can you please fix the quality of your paper, because your issues are far too thin. This thing, like the two Marvel issues I have this week are already like my Thor is already on like close to falling apart because the paper is so
Oh
thin,
wow,
particularly in the covers, and
that's
it's
crazy.
through them all. And like the same with the Amazing Spider-Mans I picked up recently. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
they're it's so thin. You just touch
That,
it once and the ink's on your hands. How am I supposed to sell that?
I mean, true. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Honestly, that you saying that makes me wonder when the last time I've actually opened like a Marvel single issue and like
Yeah.
tried to read it. It might have been a while because I've very much fallen away from pull. Like I know I touched earlier that I don't even really pull DC, but just
Mm-hmm.
I don't really pull too many big two books unless it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those like I'm trying to vote with my money type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like so there's
Yeah.
only a handful of titles that I'm getting right now. I think besides Dark Ages, I do legitimately want that one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is issue 3 of it, but I happen to get this also, this Reptile book.
Oh,
I
cool.
think the character's cool, and you never like hear about him. This is his first solo series, and like he's probably not someone that's going to get a ton of exposure otherwise. So I'm like, yeah, I'll buy that book. This way, Marvel can potentially see like, okay, maybe people are into this. And another one is Gamma Flight, which I don't know a whole lot about. This is only the 4th issue. Uh,
Oh,
but I think the covers have looked pretty awesome, and the roster for the books that I've seen so far is something that I'm really into, which is why I also decided to pull that as well.
so I'm literally right now I'm reading like the UK. It's weird. It's the UK paperback omnibuses of Immortal Hulk. I'm presuming that's a spin-off of Immortal Hulk because there's a group that's made called Gamma Flight in it.
Right. Yeah, it probably is. I was waiting for Immortal Hulk to end to read it,
Yeah,
which I think it ended this month, right? I don't know if there's
last
another.
week I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense because Donny Cates Hulk is supposed to start soon. I thought it was
yeah.
October, but I guess it's next month.
I think it's November. I'm pretty sure I saw a preview for it recently that was November, which had him in like a weird looking mech suit, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Uh and I follow Cates on Twitter, so he's like commented on like the suit. He's like as he's essentially saying like I'm not going to tell you why he's in the suit, but like there's like an in story reason that he needs it. So
Hmm.
it's like okay, like that's cool. Like obviously he doesn't need armor, like he's the fucking Hulk,
Yeah.
but I'm curious to
Something
see.
I'm sure
Yeah.
something I'm sure you'll appreciate is he seems to have written to Ryan Otley's strength as an
Oh,
Invincible fan.
100%. Everything that I've seen is like, damn, like Otley's in his wheelhouse right now.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I definitely need to pull that book. I'm glad that it didn't come out this month because I forgot to add it to my
Yeah.
pull list. But next month, we're going to be here potentially reviewing Hulk #1.
Yeah, that could be our number one actually. Good shout, yeah.
I'd be down for that. Um, but yeah,
Because
with that,
there's also Al Ewing's Venom as well. Obviously, they're like swapping titles almost.
yeah,
Donny Cates and
essentially,
Al Ewing.
I
Yeah.
think the only difference is was it Ram V's helping Al Ewing
Yes.
on,
Yeah.
but he
That's good.
basically did flip flop.
Yeah, because I think there's two. I don't know if it's like they're interwoven or if there's like almost like a main like story and a backup between Eddie
Mm,
Brock and his in Dylan Brock. Like there's going to be like a
right.
balancing act. But I'm pretty excited for that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I mean that'll be good, especially if Ewing puts his like body horror spin on like what he was doing with Immortal Hulk. Obviously, like don't rehash it, but like if he
mhm,
can kind of mix it up, because I think Venom suits that as well. Again, I haven't
mhm,
read Immortal Hulk, so I don't know the details, but like from what I've heard, I think
mhm,
you could kind of work something in there with Venom,
mhm,
in like the quote body horror like aspect.
mhm. What I've read of Immortal Hulk so far, I wouldn't say there's definitely some lulls, but Ewing constantly surprises me with how he comments on just things in the world through Hulk. I think it's a very original take on the Hulk and how he's kind of balanced them. So I agree with what you're saying. Like I think he would be a really good. He's going to be a really good fit for Venom,
Mhm.
especially with the odd place that he's in right now. So yeah, like those two number ones, by those two, I think are must reads.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I still need to read Kate's Venom too. I don't know how necessary it's going to be going into this new Venom run, but
it's Marvel. It won't matter.
that's what I'm thinking. Like it won't matter too much, so like I could probably pull that too just to see, if it's any good, and then drop it if I need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I pulled this week is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 122. And to be honest, I think the last issue I read of TMNT was probably like somewhere in the 60s or 70s. So I'm pretty behind, but I like the Turtles too much to not keep pulling the book. And my pull list was so small that like it didn't even feel like anything. But I always love these covers. Like I have a couple other Turtles books that I got because, like I said, I haven't been in a month. And like there's this one for 121.
Damn.
And I think I have 120 as well. Oh, maybe I don't. But yeah, I don't know who's on art or like how often they switch people or if it's just like a cover thing, but I think throughout like nearly the entirety of this whole run from 1 to 122, I've really liked their covers. And even if it's not like your cup of tea, if you're into like the old school, like throwback, like OG Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they have, or they used to, like Eastman and Laird covers as well. And it would always bother me because there'd be some times where like I want like the A cover, but the B cover would be those like Eastman and Laird ones. And that's what the like subscribers would get. And I'm like, I always ended up like switching them on the racks just because like I really like the newer art. But yeah, the Turtles are always good stuff, even though I haven't heard too many great things post issue 100, but I'll have to see for it myself.
That's roughly about where I've read. I'm about the same point. Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't hit that point where everyone says it dips in quality a wee bit.
Right. The only other thing that I pulled this week that was actually from this week is Gunslinger Spawn. I got it just to see what the hype is about. Disclaimer, I've never read a Spawn book, but I have the compendium. I just thought, there was like 6 different covers, so like EVS might have like a fucking aneurysm if someone brings up Gunslinger Spawn sales. But I thought this cover looked awesome. I think they even have Haunt on there. Actually, cool. Is that his actual name or is it just the title of his book? Do you know?
I don't actually know. No, I always thought it was the title of his like character.
Right, me too, but now that I'm saying that, I'm like, I've never read it, but like I kind of don't want to read it just because the final issues aren't collected in anything.
Yeah.
I forget how long the run is. There's like 4 trades, and then the last trade collects like up to like 2 issues before the final issues of the book. I'm like, what? I kind of hope it started out as a Kirkman book, I believe. So I kind of hope he makes a compendium for it. I think that'd be cool because I know he does that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty slow week for me. I don't know what next week is going to look like.
So you've never read any Spawn?
Correct. Okay. I haven't had like zero Spawn exposure. Like I've done some like Googling, and I had like a Spawn video game for the PS2. Okay. So like I've never not been exposed to Spawn, but like I haven't read any because by the time I got into the hobby, Spawn was already at like issue 200 something, and it was like really hard to try and get some of the books and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that like the beginning of it's like really like mediocre. So I wasn't in a hurry back then, but if they keep releasing these compendiums, then like I'll definitely be down to read it and potentially try to catch up.
I mean, I think it's pretty atrocious how poorly Spawn has been collected in general.
Yeah.
To make it, constantly celebrating milestones about how long it's been going, but not really, again, that word accessibility, not really helping people get into it, because I've read the first must be about like 25 issues now, and
Uh-huh.
I'm persevering, but it's not my thing. Not really a big
Mm,
fan of it, but um yeah, like, it's an absolute nightmare to find. Absolute
yeah.
nightmare.
And I
And
think I think they were reprinting some books not that long ago, but they were like skipping a couple because he like Todd McFarlane like lost the rights to Angela, or not lost, but he like sold it to Marvel, so like he can't reprint those books. Or I don't know how that
yeah,
shit.
he had, I
But
think there was a big thing with Neil Gaiman.
yeah, and that I don't know. That's to me, it's unfortunate because it's like, why would I collect like those hardcovers? I think is what it was that was being reprinted, and like I want to say volume 7 and 8 or something like that were not part of
Yeah,
it. Like, like why would I want? Like, why? I'm not gonna jump from 6 to 9. Like that just it
yeah,
wouldn't look right.
yeah. I also found it really weird that I think it's the compendiums, so you might have it. Don't
Mhm.
d- don't have covers. Don't have any of the covers in them.
I haven't looked, but that's what I've heard, which
Yeah,
kind of makes sense given how small the compendium actually is. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that it's not any bigger because sometimes those things are like problematic to hold and they supposedly fall apart. I've never had that happen to me, but
yeah.
supposedly that some compendiums will fall apart. I know I heard like bad things about the darkness ones and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Glad I got rid of mine before they fell apart. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Are you excited to read King Spawn? It was King Spawn, was it?
Gunslinger Spawn. King
Gunslinger
Spawn
Spawn.
was last month or might have been 2 months ago. I don't know how often it's coming out. When I went in today, issue 3 was what was on the rack. So I don't
Hmm.
know if it's a bi-monthly or well, no, bi-monthly would be 2 months. I don't know if it was like twice monthly or once. I don't remember
Hmm.
how or sorry when it started. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, I think it looks good. I flipped through some of the pages a little bit. I mean, I don't even know. Honestly, this is how little I know about what's going on with Spawn right now. I don't know if McFarlane actually wrote this book or not. It looks like he did. Um, but yeah, I just thought the cover looked awesome. I picked my favorite out of the like 6 that were there. I wasn't really trying to get all of them since they were $6 a piece. But
Ouch.
yeah, yeah, that was not great since I was balling on a budget this week. But
Yeah. So
and
I've got a question about Ninja Turtles.
okay.
How many single issues do you have of it, and how long have you been collecting them?
Oh man, I don't know the exact number. I want
Uh-huh.
to say I started collecting somewhere possibly like in the 30s range.
Okay.
It's been a
So
while.
it's early days.
Yeah. When I first got into it, each trade only has 4 issues. And I think they were up to like the 5th or 6th trade before I started collecting. So I mean, I still have them. I could probably double check and give you an actual answer in the chat later. But yeah, no, I've been collecting it for a while. Definitely have like issue 50. And I think 75 was another one that was supposed to be like a semi big deal.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, I have a bunch of issues. And there's actually a couple of them that I have because have you read any of the singles or did you read all the trades?
No, I've read the hardback collections. Um, I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. They're those the
Yeah,
ones.
they're the ones that most people go for.
Yeah, no, they look nice. But yeah, so some of the singles I'd have to figure out which ones they are at this point. But there was a couple where I actually made the newsletter in the back, and I saw my question and got their answer.
Whoa.
Yeah, so like that's kind of cool. It makes me wonder. It's like how many people are actually emailing them? Like maybe it's just like 10, but
Yeah, I've always wondered that.
but uh, but yeah, no, I made it into those, so I thought that was cool. If
Do you
I
remember
ever
your
end up getting
questions?
I don't. I remember one. Uh, I remember talking about Leatherhead was like starting to be introduced into the series, and I remember saying something along the lines of like, I would love to see him and Slash fight. Because I thought that would be awesome. And I don't remember if they said like it would happen, and I didn't get far enough into it to see if it ever did.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was something that was really cool right when he uh, debuted in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
That's really awesome.
yeah, no, it's cool shit. So one other thing that I told you about last minute that I wanted to do was tell you what the coolest cover that I saw on the racks was. And it was Bermuda #4, which is a series that I have never heard of. It's from IDW, and it's written by John Layman, and Nick. The art is by Nick Bradshaw, who we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And I flipped through it a little bit, and I think it's something that's up my alley. But the reason I didn't get it is because it's a #4. So like they might have had all 3 of the other ones on the shelf, but I didn't bother to look because, like I said, I was on a budget. Maybe when I get paid Friday, I'll go back in and see if they have them all. But the general synopsis for it on Comixology, it says there's a region in the Atlantic Ocean where planes disappear, ships are lost, and traveling souls go missing, never to be heard from again. And then there's an island within this place, mysterious and uncharted, an island untouched by time and civilization, where all who are lost end up. Bermuda lives here. She's 16, scrappy, and a survivor, and this has been the only life she has ever known until today. She's discovered something on her island that will either open a doorway between her world and ours or destroy it. That actually sounds kind of cool.
Yeah,
I didn't. That's the first time I read that. I waited until we made this video to read it. But that sounds kind of cool with the art being what it was. Like, maybe I'll go the digital route for that one. I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was very eye-catching and one of my favorite covers. The Gunslinger Spawn one was pretty good too. But yeah, I'm a sucker for the colorful shit.
Yeah. So I think the covers that stood out to me this week, one in particular was, and I didn't buy it, which I wish I had, was the Black Label Catwoman Lonely City. Cliff Chang did the cover. It was like a really nice orangey color. It looked fantastic. I think it was just a little bit out of my budget as well, but I think I might pick it up next week because I believe he writes and draws it. And the Black Label stuff tends to be pretty good. The other one as well, and I'm going to use any excuse to plug this book because I was so excited and I love it. But I noticed Batman the Imposter got a
second cover or like second printing.
Yeah, I got like a variant cover. Name's out of my head now. Lee Bermejo. I think I said it right. Lee Bermejo. He had like a really cool black and white cover on it. And it looked pretty awesome. It looked very much like a year one Robert Pattinson style Batman. And it stood out to me. I picked it up and then realized it was the same issue from last week. And I was like, oh,
right. Yeah.
It's not my budget to buy the 2 covers, but if I had the money, totally I would. I still love the Andrea Sorrentino cover A from last week though. That would have been my standout from last week.
I liked it. But yeah, another thing that I noticed, and obviously this is, it only applies to my store. I didn't go to multiple or whatever, but I saw Chicken Devil on the shelves, and I saw No One Left to Fight 2 on there, and I can't help but tell anybody who might end up watching this, please go buy those books. They are so good. Do yourself a favor. If it's still in your store, please go get it.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been looking at it. I'm going to pick it up because you gave it such a glowing recommendation. No One Left to Fight.
I mean, like I said in the video, I feel like it really caters to me. Like I said, like I'm a sucker for the colorful shit,
Mhm.
and the colors just pop, like all the bright greens and pinks and blues and whatever. Like it, that's my kind of like color palette. So
Mhm.
I I'm a big fan. I think that's it for this week. I mean,
Yeah,
you can call
I've
it
I've went through all my books. I think next week's a much bigger week. I've got a few next week I'm looking forward to. There's
nice.
the long Halloween special, and there's DC versus vampires.
Oh, okay, yeah. When
Yeah.
is that the second issue? I know you mentioned it recently.
No, that's the first issue. Well, so the special I think is a one-off, but the DC versus vampires, that was going to be my Halloween pick because
Mm.
the week before, and it's a James Tynion book. I couldn't believe it when I
Oh,
saw his name on it. Yeah,
okay.
and it's Otto Schmidt. Otto Schmidt's doing the art. He's a fantastic artist. He did a Green Arrow run a few years ago that looked incredible. So it's a good writer, good artist, and that's
I need to
definitely
tell you, but I'm drawing a blank on what I might have seen him in. I'll have
Mhm.
to look it up.
He's got like it's like a sharp cartoony style, but it's so good. I love it.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, like I'm continuing my Spider-Man escapade with Kelly Thompson's debut on the title for this 3 times monthly book. So
There's no
yeah, I know.
book could release that much, like especially because it's like, at what point do you decide which week it skips? Like, does it
Yeah,
skip the second week of the month or the third week, or do you stop the last week and then just do the first 3 weeks of every month? Like,
yeah.
it's so dumb, especially because a book doesn't need to come out that often.
No, it doesn't. It's brutal on the wallet. But as I've said before,
Well,
I want to do a Spider-Man video and I want to be informed about what's going on right now. So I'm
yeah, no,
persevering. That
that's
said, Kelly Thompson is a really good writer, so I kind of have a lot of faith in that issue. So I'm
hmm,
hoping it's a good one. But yeah, there's a lot out next week, so it should be a good time.
nice. Yeah, no, I don't know. Like I said, my pull list is kind of small, so I don't know what to expect next week. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of making a habit out of going to the store again, because sometimes I'll go like once every 2 months. So if this is what pushes me to go in every week and like find a new book like Bermuda, then I'm all for it. With that said, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. So we will see you guys next week.